A's Extra.
For the best coverage of Anglers baseball, it's the Hook Podcast.
It's gone into the Cardinals bullpen. Evan Longoria has tied the game at 4.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. Jeff Belge loads the bases and somehow dances his way out of the jam. It is long gone. It's another torque bomb.
Now to your hosts, Ben Shulman and Emmanuel Berbari.
Episode 4 of The Hook leading up to the 2021 Chatham Anglers season. He's Ben Shulman, Emmanuel Berbari with you. Ben, we're getting closer and closer to the 2021 Cape Cod Baseball League season. The revised schedule is out and optimism abound for the Cape.
For sure. It's awesome to get that new schedule in. Obviously, we had heard a few days prior that there were going to be some changes made. And I think the best part of it now, we get to see that still all 40 games are going to be played, even if it's a little more condensed, even if you and I have a few less off days, it's all right because, and the players as well, obviously the guys who really need the off days, because there'll be a full slate for us. Orleans on July 4th, that should be really fun among a lot of the really good dates coming up. So great to see that we finally know now who Chatham is going to play, when they're going to play.
It's still at Falmouth for the opener on June 20th, and you can find the full schedule, the full roster for that matter, now at chathamanglers.com. Ben, we have a big episode. We want to get into a few more players we're highlighting in this 2021 Chatham A's roster. But before we get there and we talk to a special guest, we have a couple Major League Baseball players we're looking at.
Yeah, the guy that stuck out to me probably at the ire of both of our favorite MLB teams so far is Red Sox reliever Garrett Whitlock. He is a Chatham 16 guy, got picked up by Boston from a Rule 5 draft pick. And he's been outstanding. I mean, 6 appearances, 13 and a third innings, no runs allowed. He's perfect so far this season. 18 strikeouts to 2 walks. Whitlock's been really fun to watch, a guy who had some great years in the Yankee system and then got hurt, and the Red Sox came in to swoop him up, and he's really paid dividends. So definitely, if you're looking for former Chatham guys and you happen to be Massachusetts located as well, Whitlock has got to be one of your favorite former A's.
Yeah, you got double Massachusetts accent going there, right? Yeah, Boston Red Sox, you got Chatham Anglers, so a great alum to highlight. And staying on the pitching front, we mentioned Matt Harvey a couple of weeks ago with his awesome second game of the season performance, kind of trying to resurrect his career. He just faced the Yankees, and at the expense of the New York Yankees once again, a former Chatham A turns in a gem. The Yankees made him look like 2015 Matt Harvey. 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. They really couldn't touch him. Now, the bats have come to life the last couple of nights for the Yankees, but Matt Harvey looked like Matt Harvey, and that is a welcome sight for people who watched him on the Cape several years ago.
Yeah, he's still the king of New York. He's still asserting himself in the Big Apple, which you love to see. I think he's 2-1 on the season so far. So a good start for Matt Harvey, who, was never gone. He's been pitching with teams for the last few years, but it feels like, the Matt Harvey we know is starting to come back.
Teased a special guest earlier. That's coming up soon. It is Keaton Rice, Chatham 2019, a Bradley University catcher. So we're going to talk to him in a matter of moments. But first, let's move to the current roster, Ben. We're continuing to highlight some players that could have an impact on Chatham in 2021 as the roster begins to round out, some adjustments being made here and there. But let's go to our 2 spotlight players of the week on this roster. Ben, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, and I'm going to start it off with Logan Chapman out of North Greenville University. He's just been really solid this year, a big right-handed pitcher. And the thing that astounds me about Chapman, who's picked up 2 wins now in his last 3 starts, he hasn't allowed more than 4 earned runs in a start this year. not more than 4 in any single start. And he only has one such start where he's allowed 4 earned runs. He's just been incredibly solid for North Greenville. He had 8 strikeouts in a game back on the 16th. His most recent start was one of his good, not great starts. He gave up 3 earned runs in 5 innings, but he's consistently getting to 5 and consistently only allowing 3 or fewer, which is really solid. Exactly what you want to see if you're getting prepared to root for him in Chatham.
I'm going to flip it over to the ASU Sun Devils, and this player sticks out to you for a variety of reasons. Ethan Long doesn't only play baseball, he plays football, tight end, halfback for Arizona State. Then you have baseball, where he's not only one-dimensional, he is two-dimensional. He pitches, he hits, he fields, he's an infielder. He's also a really productive pitcher on the mound. He's not allowed to run this season in 6 2/3 innings. He's hitting .333 at the plate. So I think that's what you call the full package. So excited to see Ethan Long get to work in Chatham.
For sure. And I got to bring it back to Georgia Tech for a second. With Jake DeLeo coming on, this is becoming a very Georgia Tech based podcast. But Kevin Pareda is another really strong underclassman for the Yellow Jackets, and he's actually leading the team in batting average so far this season. He's hitting .336, has 22 RBIs in 35 games. He's walked pretty well. He slugs like crazy. He's got 14 doubles to go along with 7 other extra base hits in 35 games. He's been outstanding. Really fun guy to watch. The Georgia Tech connection is going to be awesome for Chatham this year.
Awesome for sure. And you can catch that interview with Jake DeLeo if you go to the last edition of The Hook, where we had a great conversation with him and his aspirations and his baseball inspirations, for that matter. I'm in love with pitching today. So my final highlighted player of the week is Cy Nielsen from BYU. What a good first name to have if you're a pitcher, Cy. I mean, you got an award named after Cy Young. You got that baseball lineage. He was drafted in the 40th round by the Indians a couple of years ago. 13th best left-handed pitcher in the nation and the top player in Utah in that recruiting class. Still working on commands a bit, so he'll face the best of the best in Chatham. Enthused to see what he brings to the table. A lefty with velocity. Cy Nielsen, my last highlighted player.
I mean, you said it, early contender for best name on the team.
No, definitely. And that's the kind of stuff we love. So those are our highlighted players. We're going to keep doing a couple of them per week on The Hook and get you caught up on what you need to know with this Chatham A's 2021 roster. But teased it before, we have a guest today, Keaton Rice from Bradley, continuing to talk with some current players as well as some alums. He played for Chatham in 2019. Really talented catcher, continues to thrive over at Bradley. So without further ado, let's welcome our next guest on The Hook. It's Keaton Rice. Joining us on The Hook, it's Bradley University catcher Keaton Rice, Chatham class of 2019. Keaton, good to be with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Keaton, you're making the adjustment into a unique sort of college baseball season. How's everything been going over at Bradley?
It's been a little different, with the quarantine rules and all that kind of stuff, masking up. But, I think our team has adjusted well, and, we just kind of embraced the motto of so what, win anyway. So, we've been, whatever the school tries to throw at us, whatever types of rules they try to throw at us, we keep saying, so what, we just got to keep playing.
Have there been instances this year, some local teams, at least around me in Syracuse, have, prepared for games, even gotten on buses, and then you hear that games are going to be canceled and you have to turn around? Have there been any really bad schedule mix-ups or intrusions like that, or has it been a semi-straightforward year for you guys?
It's been pretty straightforward. Last weekend, we actually had a team canceled due to coronavirus, positive cases, but we were informed well above beforehand. The weekend, we had a new opponent get scheduled, and we were still able to play just with a different opponent. So, nothing too crazy has happened, but we have dealt with some positive cases.
You mentioned that motto, so what, just win anyway. How much has maybe this kind of difficult time taught you about a baseball mindset as a whole, kind of focusing on that individual game?
Right. The game of baseball, you're given a lot of ups and downs. You have to deal with failure, and everyone says baseball is a game of failure, and it's really how you deal with it. But even the coronavirus and the shutdown and all that, you have to figure out how to deal with not being able to play baseball, and what are you going to do outside of baseball. And I think it's really interesting to see what players did during the shutdown, and who wanted to keep playing, who decided to take a different route. And it was really interesting to see.
What were some of your things, not to put you on the spot, that you were doing instead of baseball?
Actually, I was baseball almost 24/7 during the shutdown. I drove out to Ohio to a facility that's pretty high end. Work with some teammates, and I was at the facility almost 9 to 5 every day. So that's what I did. I know some other guys took up frisbee golf. A lot of guys took up golfing. Just outdoor sports that could kind of keep their minds away from the stress and all that.
Keaton, flashing back to your upbringings throughout baseball, you're from Geneseo, Illinois, Geneseo High School. You've been a catcher through and through. Can you kind of flash us back and take us to when that moment occurred to you, whether in childhood or heading to a certain level of baseball where you knew the catching position was so appealing to you?
Sure. I've always been a catcher since I was 9. I've been catching for travel ball and all that. My dad was a catcher, and one of the first practices, no one wanted to go back there, and so I said, yeah, I'll do it, and it ended up being a lot of fun. Having one of the stronger arms on pretty much every team that I've been on, just throwing guys out, that's really what kind of kept me back there, and it's probably the best part about catching.
So you, at a very young age, realize you are going to be a catcher. What's the point where you realize that you're pretty good at this catching thing, that you might be a bit better than like the average guy playing little league and have a chance to do something beyond just playing high school?
I really didn't. I didn't really see anything in kind of like what you're saying until about 8th grade, freshman year almost. And then right going into that high school level baseball, I kind of realized that, I'm a little bit better, more talented than some of the guys on the team. And, I really just tried to, instead of, pushing myself against the guys that were my age, I tried to push myself against the guys that were older than me and trying to beat out those guys. But right about that 8th grade freshman year is when I realized that this could go beyond high school.
Of course, a standout in high school, and that's translated into the college level where you've kind of been an anchor for the pitching staff as well at Bradley. Who were some of those inspirations in high school that got you in the right frame of mind defensively and taught you everything you know?
I would give most of the credit to my father. Just working extra outside of the 2-hour practice that we had in high school, just going to the cage whenever we had time. So just, really getting those extra reps is really what's put me ahead.
And, since you've gotten to Bradley, you've definitely gotten a handful of recognition, all Missouri Valley Conference team twice. And you have been on some watch lists that have some pretty good names behind them in terms of Johnny Bench and Buster Posey. How do you pride yourself on your defensive play, and what do you think is your best defensive asset, perhaps, that you bring?
I'd say my best defensive asset would be definitely my arm. Just being able to control the running game in every game that we've played. It's really a blessing for the pitching staff. They don't have to really worry about holding guys on, picking guys off. They can just go ahead and make the pitch that they need to make, and it's really helped our team out. You keep guys off second base, you keep the double play intact, just stuff like that. Being on the awards watch list and all that, it's really nice. It's really good to see, that I'm able to hang with the best, and playing in the Cape Cod and has also shown me that. So just knowing that I can hang with the best is something that's really been nice to come from those lists.
You mentioned Cape Cod and Chatham, where you spent the 2019 summer. You just take another step up going up to the Cape and playing against the best of the best. What did that summer specifically teach you about your game and how it stacks up?
Really, like I said, it showed me that I can compete with pretty much anyone. And, playing in the Cape, I learned a lot about the mental side of baseball with Mickey Tettleton and Coach Holiday. So just learning the mental side and, really upping that portion of it, because I think the physical ability is there, but just really locking in on the mental side is what really I took from the Cape Cod.
When you get there, and I mean this with absolutely no disrespect to Bradley, are you at all like, for a second held back, like, whoa, like that, that guy's like Ty Madden pitching at Texas and Colby Kubicek, and I'm catching guys from Vandy. Is there a little bit of that moment where you're like, all right, we've entered, an area where some of the top teams have their top pitchers coming to play with me?
For sure. You show up to Chatham and you've got Ty Madden, Colby Kubicek, you've got Torkelson there for a week. You've got the biggest names in college baseball at that point, and you're just like, wow, I'm here with these guys. So you kind of take a step back and you appreciate it, and then you kind of put that aside, and that we're all here to play baseball and we're all here to work. So.
And what are your relationships like with some of your former teammates? Is there anyone in particular or a couple of guys that you still keep in touch with that you used to play with on the Anglers?
The one guy I still have a conversation with here and there is Zach Cable. He was my roommate in Chatham. So just kind of, banter back and forth on social media, that kind of stuff. But other than that, you see the social media posts and you really root for those guys.
On the offensive side of the ball, we've talked a lot about defensively at catcher, but offensively, you've taken the approach of patience throughout your collegiate career. Your on-base percentage has essentially been 400 or north each of your 4 seasons at Bradley. Where does that come from? Where did that approach originate?
I think it mainly just comes from being a catcher. The plate discipline, being able to know the zone, knowing what the umpire is going to call and what he's not. As of late, I've been trying to jump on that first pitch fastball more, but just getting deep into counts, making pitchers work so that as they go throughout the game, they've got nothing to surprise you with.
What's the next step for you as a hitter offensively in your mind?
I'd say right now, being more confident at the plate, hitting for more power. Those are the 2 things that are the next step for me. You look at the numbers, not a ton of extra base hits, but still getting on base a lot. So just being able to bring that extra base hit column up to help the team out, drive in runs, that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, in your guys' last game against St. Louis, I believe you did have a double and 4 RBIs. So maybe
I did.
It's starting to come to fruition here. You're talking about before, like Johnny Bench and Buster Posey awards. Who are some guys that you try to model your game after, or are there any guys that you try to model your game after?
Defensively, I definitely I pay a lot of attention to Yadier Molina, one of the best to ever do it. You start to look at nowadays, looking at JT Realmuto for catching wise, just the guys who are at the top of the list. But I really watched Yadi since I was young and just continuing to learn from him. And you look at the spring training YouTube videos, and he's more of a coach now than he is a player. So just being able to learn from him is what I've tried to model from.
Keaton, a couple of more rapid fire questions,
Sure.
if you will. You talked a lot about your arm earlier in the interview, and there are different types of moments that stand out as a baseball player. What would you rather have as a catcher? Gunning someone at second base or hitting a home run?
I'd say hitting a home run still. Throwing guys out is something you're supposed to do. So I'd say hitting a home run.
Have you ever had a big collision at home or anything to that sorts? I know they try to get it out of the game now, but is there any big collision you've ever gotten into?
I've never been in a collision at home.
That's good news.
Yeah, it's very good.
That's a good news safety wise. As you prepare for a game as you get ready for a game? What's your go-to pregame playlist type genre music?
Uh, Usually it's a lot of rap, hip hop, that kind of stuff. I'm not really into the new style music, but I'll get some Jay-Z, some Kanye West, that kind of stuff, just to kind of get the heart going and get the right state of mind.
Are there any superstitions you have? Are there any little things that you're going to do before a game to get ready?
I go and hit early. I do all the stretching stuff, but I try to stay away from the superstitions. I don't want to rely on something having to go right for me to play well. So I try to stay away from that kind of stuff. Obviously everyone's got their little things that they do that they say are not superstitions, but I try to stay away from the big ones.
I see you're a sports communication major at Bradley. You've had a really successful collegiate baseball career. What do you think's next for you in your life once you graduate?
I'm still looking for my name to be called in the draft. That's obviously plan number one. I haven't thought outside of baseball that too much, but I've started to look into the sports media world and looking for like video editing, that kind of stuff for baseball teams. Just looking into that sort of category after graduation.
Are you a Cubs, a White Sox guy, or are you off the board?
I am a Cardinals fan, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What motivated that? Is my geography, pardon me, of Illinois off, or is it a personal thing aside from being close to them?
I think my parents kind of put me onto the Cardinals. They've always watched the Cardinals, and I guess just as a little kid, they've always been on the TV. So that's who I grew up watching. That's who I've grown to like.
This may be more of a yes or no, so almost a broadcast no with this question here, but 2011 World Series. Actually, let me rephrase that. 2011 World Series favorite moment. Was it it had to be David Freese, correct?
Correct. David Freese's home run to continue the series is one of the most memorable.
Would you want an Albert Pujols reunion year if he were to come back and do a final year, or no?
I mean, yeah, I think every Cardinals fan would love to see that.
Keaton, really appreciate the time. A lot of fun getting to know you, and best of luck the rest of your collegiate career.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
A lot of fun catching up with Keaton Rice on this edition of The Hook. Certainly learned a lot about himself during his time in Chatham. And Ben, I like as a catcher how he almost views throwing out a base runner as business as usual. Not too much exhilaration there, but he'd rather refine his offensive game and hit the long ball.
For sure. And I think you could be a casual looker and go to Keaton's stats and say, well, he's hitting in the low twos, but it's his defensive work at the catcher spot that's really impressive. I mean, that's why he's getting on Catcher of the Year national award watch lists. And now that he's starting to figure out the offensive game, he's gotten really hot in the last few weeks. I think it's a scary sight. That mix of his influences, Yadier Molina and JT Realmuto, is about building the perfect catcher there between incredible defensive prowess and then hitting for average as well. So, if he can continue that going, he said he wants to see his name called in the MLB draft. I wouldn't be surprised if it did, because he's definitely already got high acclaim as a defensive stopper, and now he's starting to hit the ball really well as well.
And how about even beyond hitting, the patience, the approach at the plate as well? 2019, 40 walks and 135 at-bats. He had almost as many walks as he did strikeouts that season. So he's almost made a niche for himself, if you will, before the offensive and kind of mashing approach even came around.
For sure. He's a guy that's almost equal walks to strikeouts for his career, which is what you want to see. I mean, this year he's nearly doubling his on-base percentage compared to his batting average. That's a way that you make a team really look into you as a guy that projects to be a lot stronger once he gets to the MLB level, because If you can figure out hitting, to a 230, 240 clip and you walk all the time, you become incredibly valuable. So I think the spike in his extra base hitting is really good. And I think the continued success walking is really good. That's exactly, what a 2021 front office wants to see.
And an awesome time getting to know Keaton Rice a little bit more here on The Hook. Also a great time continuing to highlight some players on the 2021 roster. We'll continue to do that each week leading up to the season. Again, opening day, June 20th at Falmouth. You can check out all the information you need to know at chathamanglers.com. For this edition of The Hook, and Ben Shulman, Emmanuel Berbari, we'll catch you next week.